My hand was shaking so hard I could barely hold the coffee cup the technician had given me. "Ma'am," he said, not looking up from the monitor, "leave right now. Go somewhere public. Don't go home." I looked at the frozen frame behind him. My own backyard, my own patio furniture, and two people standing in it who were never supposed to be there. "What did you find?" I whispered. He turned the monitor away from me. "You need to call someone before I show you this," he said. "Someone who isn't in this footage. My name is Diane Kessler. I'm 63 years old, and for 31 years I ran a small accounting firm I built from a single client into a practice serving over 400 small businesses. I sold it 2 years ago for $2.1 million. Not because I wanted to, but because my hands had started shaking too much to trust my own numbers anymore. That money, my paid-off house, and my retirement savings made me comfortable for the first time in my life. Comfortable enough to help my son Marcus and his wife Renata with their down payment. Comfortable enough to pay for my granddaughter Lily's dance lessons. I thought that comfort meant my family was safe. I was wrong. It started on an ordinary Tuesday in March. Renata came to dinner in a silk blouse I recognized from a boutique window. Price tag $480, smoothing it at her waist like she wanted it noticed. Marcus poured a Bordeaux instead of our usual $12 bottle. Label turned outward like an announcement. "Big week?" I asked lightly. Renata smiled. "Just treating ourselves. You only live once, right, Diane?" She'd started calling me Diane 6 months earlier. Never, Mom. A small, precise reminder that I'd never be the kind of mother-in-law who got the warmer name. I didn't say anything. I just watched Marcus avoid my eyes and refill his glass too fast. Driving home, I did the math I'd done professionally for 30 years. Marcus made $71,000. Renata worked part-time, maybe $28,000. Between the mortgage I'd helped with, 2 car payments, and Lily's tuition, their numbers didn't come close to covering a Tuesday night splurge like that. Something was funding a life they couldn't afford. 3 weeks later, I found out what. I still had access to a joint emergency fund I'd set up years earlier, $50,000, with Marcus as co-signer for convenience. I rarely checked it. That week, something told me to look. $31,400 had been withdrawn over 4 months. Cash pulls, transfers to an account I didn't recognize. I called Marcus, keeping my voice light. "I noticed some withdrawals. Can you walk me through it?" He didn't miss a beat. "Renata was consulting on the side," he said. "Licensing fees, a cash flow gap while invoices processed. Totally normal in the consulting world. It was fluent, confident, designed to make a woman in her 60s feel foolish for asking. I thanked him for explaining, and I hired a private investigator. 2 weeks later, a woman named Priya slid a folder across a coffee shop table. There was no consulting business, no LLC, no clients, no invoices. The money had gone toward a leased BMW, a Cancun trip for 4, and 3 payments to a company called Bellwood Property Holdings. Priya traced the registered agent. It led back to a residential address, mine. I didn't confront them yet. The following Sunday, dropping off cookies for Lily, I let myself in through the side door and heard them before they saw me. "She's not going to notice," Renata was saying, laughing, ice clinking in her glass. "Did you see her hands shaking at dinner? In 2 years she won't remember what year it is." Marcus's laugh was quieter, guiltier. "She trusts me. Signed power of attorney years ago, remember? We just need one more signature, and Bellwood owns the house outright. She never has to know until it's done." I stood in that doorway with a tray of cookies going cold in my hands, and something in my chest went very, very still. At home, I pulled every document I'd signed in 3 years. Buried in a stack Marcus had helped me organize was a durable power of attorney, notarized, granting him broad authority over my finances and property. I didn't remember signing anything that broad, only something he'd described as, "just so I can help with bills." I called the notary listed on the form. After a long pause, she told me she had no record of witnessing that signature. My seal number had been used without me. The power of attorney was forged. I asked Priya to dig deeper into Bellwood. What she found stopped me cold. It wasn't just a shell for stealing my house. It had already taken out a $180,000 home equity line against my property 6 weeks earlier, using the forged document as authorization. The funds had been split, some to Marcus and Renata's personal accounts, $60,000 to a man named Todd Whitmore, Renata's brother, with 2 prior fraud-adjacent judgments against him in another state. This wasn't a couple living beyond their means. This was a coordinated plan to strip $180,000 from my home, using a forged legal document, funneling money to a relative with a history of financial schemes, while calling me Diane over Bordeaux and joking that I was too far gone to notice. I had enough evidence to go to the police that day. I didn't. Paperwork gets contested. Marcus could claim confusion, claim I'd forgotten giving verbal permission, claim my declining faculties made my own testimony unreliable. The same lie they were already telling themselves about me. I needed them on record, in their own voices, admitting intent. So I decided to give them exactly what they thought they already had, a fragile old woman. I started forgetting things on purpose, repeating questions, calling Lily by my sister's name, and catching myself with visible confusion. I let my hand tremor become the center of every visit, held cups with both hands, apologized for spills I hadn't made. I bought a cane I didn't need and used it inconsistently. Dramatic in front of them, forgotten when I thought I was alone, so Renata would notice the gaps and feel clever for catching them. Inside, I had never been sharper. Every performance was a calculation. Let them believe the con was working. Let them get greedy. Greedy people get careless, and careless people talk. "Marcus, honey," I said one Sunday, voice small. "I feel like I signed something recently, but I can't remember what. Was that important?" I watched relief flood his face. "No, Mom, don't worry about it. Just routine stuff." He believed I was disappearing. That belief was about to cost him everything. I installed a discreet camera system around the patio and kitchen window, framed to Marcus as a security upgrade after a real break-in 2 streets over. He even helped me pick the brand, laughing about how tech-savvy I still was for an old lady, never suspecting the footage ran continuously to a cloud account he didn't know existed. I also had my real attorney draft a piece of bait, a document, on real letterhead, that appeared to be a full transfer of my house into a trust, naming Marcus as sole beneficiary, effective on my signature. It was never meant to be filed. I left it, carefully misplaced, on my kitchen counter on a Thursday, the day Renata always came by to check on me while Marcus was at work. Then I waited. That evening my phone buzzed softly on the counter, motion alerts from the patio camera. I sat with a book I wasn't reading, watching the little red light blink, feeling my pulse in my throat. At 6:40, the phone buzzed longer, a conversation. I let 2 more weeks pass, long enough for the trust document to work its way into talk I now had recorded in full. Renata's voice, clear as a bell. "She already thinks she signed it. We just tell her she did. Worst case, we say she's confused. Who's going to believe a woman who can't remember her own granddaughter's name? And Marcus, in my own backyard, on camera. Once the trust clears, we sell within 6 months. Todd already has a buyer lined up. Mom won't even know until she's in assisted living, and it's already done." I chose Lily's 8th birthday party to end it. 40 guests, string lights, a pink balloon arch on the same patio the cameras had recorded for 6 weeks. Renata found her moment mid-party, champagne in hand, laughing loud enough for guests nearby to hear. "Diane gets a little confused these days," she told Marcus's aunt, not bothering to lower her voice. "We're handling all her affairs now. She can't be trusted with the details anymore." I walked over slowly, cane in hand. "What details, dear?" "Oh, nothing. Don't worry about it," she said, patting my arm like I was a child. I set the cane down against the table. The sound of wood against iron cut through the chatter, and a few heads turned. "I'd like everyone to hear this, actually," I said, my voice steady, not rising. "I think Renata's right that some things need to come into the open." I took out my phone and set it on the table, screen up, and pressed play. Renata's laughing voice filled the patio. "She already thinks she signed it. Who's going to believe a woman who can't remember her own granddaughter's name?" The party went silent except for the string lights humming overhead. "There's also this," I said, holding up a folded paper. "The forged power of attorney. The notary who signed it has confirmed in writing that she never witnessed my signature." Marcus's face went the color of the tablecloth. "Mom, you don't understand the context. I understand $180,000 was pulled from my house using a forged document. I said, and that 60,000 of it went to your brother, Todd, who has 2 prior fraud judgments in Ohio. I tore the forged power of attorney in half, then in quarters, and set the pieces down next to the cake. 2 men in plain clothes stepped forward from near the gate, detectives Priya had arranged, waiting on my signal, holding a warrant built from the forged notarization, the bank records, and the recording. Marcus Kessler, Renata Kessler, one said, "We need you to come with us to answer questions about a home equity fraud investigation." Renata's champagne glass slipped from her hand and shattered on the same stones the cameras had watched for 6 weeks. Nobody clapped. Nobody cheered. I just picked my cane back up, because for the first time all evening, I actually needed it. Within 4 months, Marcus was charged with forgery, financial exploitation of an elderly person, and fraud tied to the $180,000 line of credit. He pled to a reduced charge, 3 years probation, full restitution, and a permanent record that ended his career at any firm requiring financial trust and bonding. Renata was charged as a co-conspirator. Her firm quietly let her go 2 weeks after the arrest hit the local papers. The name she'd dropped so casually across my dinner table now sat beside the word fraud. In searchable court records, Todd Whitmore, facing a 3rd fraud-related judgment in as many years, was the only one who saw real jail time, 14 months, stacked onto his prior record. The marriage didn't survive the arrest. Renata moved out within 6 weeks, taking 2 suitcases and the BMW lease, which she defaulted on 90 days later. I forgave one debt in this story, and only one. A young bookkeeper from my old firm, who'd unknowingly processed some of Bellwood's paperwork under Marcus's instruction, came to me in tears, terrified she'd be implicated. I told the detectives everything I knew about her innocence, and helped her find work at a firm I trusted. She hadn't chosen her employer's crimes. And Lily, 8 years old, innocent of every bit of this, never lost her dance lessons, her school, or her grandmother. Some things greed doesn't get to touch. 9 months later, on the first real storm of the season, my doorbell rang at 9:40 at night. Marcus stood on my porch soaked through, a duffel bag at his feet, his face thinner than I remembered. "Mom," he said, voice cracking, "I have nowhere else to go. I just need somewhere to stay while I figure things out. Please." I looked at him for a long moment, my son, still my son, rain running down a face I used to wipe clean as a toddler. "I loved you enough to give you everything I had," I said, steady, not unkind. "You decided that wasn't enough, and you tried to take the rest by force, while calling me confused to my face in my own kitchen. I hope you rebuild something honest. It won't be rebuilt here." I closed the door gently. No slam, just the quiet click of a lock. My husband Daniel put his hand on my shoulder as I stood in the hallway. "You okay?" he asked. "I will be," I said. And for the first time in a year, I believed it. Here's what I learned the hard way. People who are planning to take something from you will often tell you exactly what they think of you first, through the small insults, the dismissiveness, the assumption that you're too weak or too confused to notice. Don't argue with that assumption. Use it. Let them underestimate you long enough to show you exactly who they are, on the record, in their own words. Family doesn't get a free pass to steal from you just because it's uncomfortable to name it. If someone in your life has ever underestimated you the way Marcus and Renata underestimated me, tell me in the comments. I want to hear it.